me. It irked my soul. I'm going to say it and we'll move right on. Andrew Schultz, love what he's doing, the independent work. It's awesome. Makes his bones with a black man that runs a network called Black Entertainment or some shit like that. Black Effect. Makes his bones there. That black man has done all that he can to build this white dude up, get his name as big as possibly can, something that your white comedian friends failed to do for however many years. And it's been working to a T. Recently, Schultz, and I'm saying this, I'm not educated, I don't know, I don't follow none of these things, but recently I'm informed that Schultz has been doing the smart business move and aligning himself with the Roganers. Sounds like a genius idea, right? So I'm seeing clips now of Andrew Schultz with, what's his name? Alex Jones?
Sure. Yeah.
Fire podcast, by the way.
That's his name?
Yeah. There's an Alex Jones.
Yeah,
it's
I don't know if
very
that's
right wing.
the Infowars.
The Roganer.
Yeah. He's been on Rogan. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No.
You say he's extremely right wing.
It's him. It's him. You know who it is? It's him. I'm seeing clips of Schultz with this guy. They're having a blast. They're laughing. They're working. Who knows what they're doing? It disturbs me.
It should. I get that. I would have a problem with it.
The end. That's it.
Wait, let me take that back.
That's it.
I want to know why.
No, don't take it back. It should.
No. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to be logical here instead of emotional.
No pun with the logic thing. But that is my issue with it. You can be Black Effect all day long
when it benefits
with a black
you.
man.
When it benefits you.
And it be beneficial because sometimes white people got to find out. Hey, and it's not just sometimes white people. When you want to increase audience, like you were saying with your Kevin Samuels dating point, when you want to increase audience, you got to figure out how to do that.
No, I said that with the girl.
I know. And I like that point.
What's her girl?
Spotify was battling Apple for
Call
audience.
Me Daddy.
Oh, yeah.
So Spotify said, I'm going.
Yo, podcast beefs. Joe Budden, Andrew Schultz, Charlamagne gonna be in it too, because I'm sure he gonna talk about what happened. Alex Jones, Joe Rogan. You can put them all in there, right? Podcast beefs in them streets. Lot to unpack to say some phrase that I shouldn't say. But yeah, let's talk about it. I wish Lovely T.I. would do more research before she talks about certain conversations. It's not that she says things that are drastically wrong. They're just wrong and they frame thoughts that might not add up. So, but we're going to unpack some of that and talk about this beef. And I get my take on it because I've pointed out what I didn't like what Andrew did with Charlamagne as far as when black folks were trying to fight for some equity in these companies and whatnot. But I think Joe was on one in this one. You gonna see this clip where they kind of, I can't lie and say they were wrong in their delivery and their rebuttal to Joe Budden. Let's talk about it though.
Are we talking about Joe Biden?
I assume.
Yeah, President of the United States.
No, we talking about the president.
No, we talking about Joe Budden, man.
Oh,
That's
Joe
my
Budden.
guy.
Oh,
That's
Joe
my guy.
Budden.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh,
I
Budden.
love Joe Budden, bro. I think he got a cute little Patreon. It's cute. You know what I mean? His Patreon's cute. He got
What's
a cute
up
little
with the
Patreon,
shots?
bro.
What's up?
I'm just saying, release the numbers. He got a cute little Patreon.
What's up with the shots, though? Be honest.
I usually don't talk about people I've passed. So you brought him up, but like I don't talk about people I've passed. I used to talk about when he was bigger than me, and you know now he got to use my name for clickbait.
Hold on.
He got to use my name for clickbait. I mean, times have changed. He used to never talk about me. Wouldn't have let me be on a podcast. Now you gotta say my name.
You really think? All right.
You gotta say my name, bro.
You
Call him Jesse's child.
Say my name. You acting kinda crazy. Ain't calling me baby. Why the sudden change? Say my name. Say my name.
I come over here to swing for my man. I used to do a show with him, man. I can't. You don't be able to go do it.
Hey, used to, motherfucker.
Used to. A lot of people used to show them.
Alrighty. So, just give a little backtrack. The beef between Joe and Charlamagne has been forever. This is a forever war. They've been having pissing contests with each other. Joe Budden went on. He actually went on Brilliant Idiots. To have a conversation a long time ago. It says, this episode we are joined by Charlamagne the God and Andrew Schultz for the Idiots podcast to settle anything disagreement between Charlamagne and Joe. We all resent Joe versus Drake beef. So this is back when the Joe Budden did that ridiculous Drake 18 freestyle against Drake or whatever that didn't go nowhere, which was pointless for Joe to do it. He bodied him with bars, but nobody cared. But so they did have a conversation before. I'm assuming this is on The Brilliant Idiots, but Joe took the content and put it on his podcast as well. So, but I guess the beef between Andrew and Joe started here, where although he's on his first episode, when it was time for Charlemagne and Andrew to come to, a little bit later, because this is when Maul was here. At this time, Maul wasn't even on the pod yet. Then he doesn't let Andrew come up. So that's their little pissing match. So every time Joe and Charlemagne get at it, Andrew would tag team in it. And I did my video before when it was about ownership versus partnership. I didn't like the fact that Andrew was speaking in those conversations because those were black conversations. Like, I get their beef is personal, but in reality, what a lot of content creators are doing, they're trying to take advantage of the George Floyd situation. Like, this is what it is. A lot of companies are fake woke, talking about equity and all this money, and we've seen so far that a lot of that stuff is bull. Some of the stuff was like, we'll do it over a 12-year span type of thing, and so you can't really critique some of the stuff because they did say in the fine print, we not giving you this all at once, whatever. But so you had situations where Joe sabotages the situation at Spotify or whatever. Charlemagne and Andrew spoke on it, gave their opinion, which Andrew should have stayed out of it. Charlemagne and Andrew basically went into this whole thing of, it's not what you negotiate, it's not what you deserve, it's what you negotiate, right? And I understood what Joe was doing in that situation. He was doing like everybody else, like Roland Martin, like Byron Allen. Kanye has done it with the wanting the seat on the board at Gap. Like, for whatever reason, this was the time that people who are already in a position to get something, to utilize what happened with the George Floyd situation to get it, right? This is not for the average person. This is for people who are already in media, who want access, who want advertising dollars, who want it's their window to try to use the situation to get something, right? And I understood that's what it was for. So to have Charlemagne not act like he didn't know that, and then sit with the white dude talking about it's not what you deserve, is what you negotiate. Then Dave Chappelle does the shit he does, and I didn't do a video about that, but I'm like, Dave Chappelle does the same thing. He uses his influence to say, don't watch my show on HBO or other networks that have bought it and own it, but I'm asking my fans not to watch it. Which I kind of thought, again, I understand what he was doing, but I thought it was lame because you signed the contract, you did that shit, and if I'm a consumer and I purchased it from the person who owned it, you can't tell me not to watch it because you signed a contract that you shouldn't have signed. And I thought that, okay, Andrew obviously kept that same energy. Charlemagne kind of didn't. He tiptoed around and did all this other stuff. And I wish Dave would have unsold us more and stuff like nah. He's doing what you knew that Joe Budden was doing and what everybody else is doing. What Byron Allen came on a Breakfast Club using the suing Comcast with the civil rights legislation on the line from 1886 or some shit like that. Everybody was in a position that's doing the same stuff. They're trying to leverage the George Floyd situation. And it's a temporary moment. And some people have already said we failed to do that and not make substantive gains. We got, a federal holiday, Juneteenth, that's about it, right? Well, other groups have gotten actual tangible things, money, resources, PPP loans, all that. We got a holiday. Cool. So, in that context, though, I thought that's like, why is this white boy in this black conversation? This is what unfortunately, this is what some of us have to do to get in, our foot in the door, we got to use the leverage that we got to win. And again, what Dave did, he did what he do. And that's the thing that Andrew, again, tapping into black folks' business, said, well, I wish Patrice O'Neal was here because he would have called out Dave and told Dave what he's doing is wrong or whatever. And I'm like, nah, maybe Patrice O'Neal, who was the GOAT, would have read the room and seen what was going on and what was happening and looking at the opportunities that black people are getting. And maybe he wouldn't have did that. Maybe he would have just been silent, which Charlemagne should have done instead of taking his personal beef with him and drawing it all out and doing all that stuff, right? But that's that. I don't think that Andrew should have been in that conversation, involved in any of that stuff, but he was, and that was my take on that. But now flash forward, Joe is in his feelings, and so Andrew Schultz had before you even get into that, again, the beef between Andrew and Joe is personal, but so that's every time Charlamagne and Joe get into it, Andrew tag team and got in it, whatever. Joe Budden did not let him come on his podcast when he only had Charlamagne, which was all right, whatever. And then they had their back and forth, and then as Andrew said, like, I'm gonna surpass you. They've gone back and forth. Then Andrew did the thing with the Patreon. And then Joe goes, well, Joe said, I'm talking to bosses and people you're talking to and rooms you're trying to go into. And then Joe got the little fake diversity role at Patreon, which put him in a position to see stuff. Andrew still was like, yo, we got the #1 podcast on Patreon, comedy or whatever. So eventually, Andrew Schultz does the Netflix stuff and all that. He surpasses Joe, maybe content-wise. I don't know. I don't know the numbers. I don't know what's going on. But he's saying, I'm bigger than him now. You wouldn't acknowledge me back then, but I'm here now. You got to look at me. You got to say my name now. Like, before you wouldn't say my name, blah, blah, blah. So again, that beef is personal. What Joe just did to me was bullshit. Joe's basically upset that Andrew did the interview with Alex Jones. I'm gonna pause this so I can get all my thoughts and come back. So as Lovely T.I. pointed out in her video, she said it because maybe she knows the numbers, but Joe not doing that good since the breakup with Rory and Mal, not Mal. I don't know why people keep saying that, but this is the corny shit I think Joe did, right? So because his numbers is not what they used to be or whatever, this white dude over here surpassed him. He's making an argument that you doing videos with this dude under the guise of Charlamagne. And even though Charlamagne lets you know, like, the one thing you can say about him is he, wants to be the tastemaker. He wants to create talent. He wants to put people on, right? That's the brag. You always hear Roland Martin brag about a lot of these black conservatives and people who got they start on his show, but he can't. Like, they leave you and go work for other people. Like, it ain't like you build them up and keep them and can afford to pay them what they deserve or whatever. That's not the brag, but in all reality, you can say Charlamagne has been good at putting other people on. That might be why he's in the go along, get along crowd, according to Kwame Brown. That might be why a lot of people didn't say shit when his Me Too stuff came out in 2017. And none of the people in the industry really went at him hard. I'm talking about mainstream. It was regular podcasters that actually covered these conversations. Maybe that's why, because he's put so many people on. He's been a kingmaker, so to speak. But Joe tried to say that, well, Charlamagne put you on, this black man put you on, and now you're doing videos with Alex Jones. And I get it. Black folks have thrown him into the racist bubble, right? And that's the problem, though. The issue isn't that Joe said it's not fair that this white dude can have on an Alex Jones or this person and that person and have it blow up and do successful things and have good content and have the numbers come in. But that's not white podcasters' fault. It's not Joe Rogan, Tim Pool's, or Andrew's fault that they have an audience that isn't a bunch of fucking idiots. See, a lot of black podcasters like Joe Budden, they be on that Democrat BS. They fake gatekeep and push people out and try to say and label people things. And that's why you put yourself in a corner. He said that, oh, they killed Charlamagne for the Tommy Lauren thing, and Ish, who I usually think has a lot of common sense, said yeah, they should have. But Charlamagne was trying to have an opportunity to branch out and build the audience, but his predominant audience said no, you can't do that, right? Tim Pool, all the other white dudes that are liberal, but are willing to talk to every other person, every other group, and have nuanced conversations. They don't have that problem. It's not their fault, though, that their audience is open-minded and yours isn't. It's not their fault that you've made concessions and said things publicly that you can't go to certain videos. Like the Kevin Samuels Joe Budden video has like 3.3 million views on it, right? And he didn't even want to do that. He got flack for doing that. So you let your followers and people who subscribe to your shit, even though you knew it was going to bang and it was going to go off, but Andrew did a video with Alex Jones in Florida. How many million views? YouTube shuts it down. And that's the thing too. Doing videos with Alex Jones is a gamble, right? Like it can boost you, but YouTube has taken down the video that Tim Pool did. YouTube has taken down some of the videos that Joe Rogan did with Alex Jones. YouTube has taken down the video that Andrew Schultz did with him, the first one. That's why he came back on it for the second time. But I think the lesson to be learned about black podcasts is, and trying to have these narratives, like you see all the black podcasts had Dr. Fauci on, and because he was undermining Trump and this other stuff, like that's the bed you made and you lay in it. You can't make the concessions you make, get in these corners, repeat all these Democrat talking points and being biased, and then be mad at other podcasters who can have their opinion but are still willing to have the conversation with those people. It is that simple. That's your fault that you've pigeonholed yourself that way. Now, is there an element of race that they're always going to have higher numbers or better, whatever? That's true to a point, absolutely. But then when you add the other stuff to it, again, he got flack for having Kevin Samuels on. So now, and it was embarrassing as hell when Kevin Samuels was on the Budden podcast. And he asked Ice-ish, Joe, do y'all know who Jordan Peterson is? And these people said no. And I'm almost glad they said no in a sense, despite it being embarrassing, because they would have did the same thing. They would have thrown him in the right-wing conservative, like all the talking points and all the stuff, because that's what MSNBC, CNN, even Joe Budden said that. Oh, not he didn't say it, but Ebony S.K. Williams admitted that, when it was political conversations, he would ask me stuff, and I would give him information about that, and he'd go repeat that shit on his pod. But that's the problem with black podcasts, is that, the person in our, because I didn't agree with what O'Shea said about Kevin going on Vlad. His argument was stupid and silly. His argument is that it's not, nobody's black big enough to that. That's why he had to go on Vlad or whatever. That didn't make no sense. It's about integrity and principles, whatever. He shouldn't have went on Vlad, period. But I understand for O'Shea, this is a business and it's money, so it's content. He chopped up every little clip that Vlad puts out. O'Shea's going to chop it up and do his response, do his video. I get that business part for him, but and I don't believe in this no code. That shit is bullshit. Even all the people who claim about a code, they do the sneaky shit. So that does not even exist in the black community or even amongst black men. It's a talking point that's trash. But I'm saying, off principle, he shouldn't have went on Vlad. I understand it was a benefit to him and they're going to the platform and all that stuff. And I understand that a lot of people in the manosphere are going to chop it up and make videos on it, and it's going to benefit them too financially. But outside of that, no, he shouldn't have went on it. But we could have in our sector pick a person and make him a Vlad. Like, that's all it takes. But what I was going to say is that unfortunately, the one person in the black YouTube space that is like a Joe Rogan, is like a Tim Pool, is like an Andrew Schultz. Unfortunately, he's not as big. His channel's not as big and all that. But he does some simple ass shit. It's Dr. Boyce Watkins. Dr. Boyce Watkins tried to branch out. He tried to have the Princeton mom come on his show, and he had her on for a couple segments, and his audience was killing him for that. They didn't want her there and this and that. And it's just weird. Like, black people have this weird mentality, like the Shea Moisture situation. When he tried to branch out and bring in more money and more content and try to compete in the global level, black women had a hissy fit because this man had a commercial with a white chick with a redhead, which I thought was brilliant, because white redhead women are not the standard of beauty. They're unique as far as they're not like the it girl and not like that. And it was interesting to put a pale face, freckle faced white girl in a joint saying our shampoo is for you too and give you some validation and all that. Black women didn't see it that way. They felt some type of way about it. So you got to know your audience. And if you let your audience take control of you that much to where you can't build off or expand or try to compete on a global level because they feel some type of way over a 30-second ad, Yep. And what did he do? He sold the company. Now he's not even into that. Then he bought Ebony and sold that too. What does that tell you? This business model of like, we not gonna have this person on, or we're not gonna talk to these people, or we're gonna repeat whatever CNN or MSNBC says about a person and not have a nuanced dialogue about it. That's why black podcasters will be in the spaces they're in. And again, Dr. Boyce Watkins, despite all his effortry and nonsense, he could have been that black space where he can interview everybody. He got friends on the left, he got friends on the right, and I get that's why people, Kwame called him to go along, get on crowd. I don't think Boyce is in that. That was wrong, and I'm gonna address that in a different video. But Boyce can talk to black conservatives, he can talk to black feminists, black liberals. He could, you know, Ethan Thomas is a niggercrat king. He'll have him on and do videos with him, and then he knows Jason Whitlock's phone number, and he talks to him too. So it's like there's beauty in being able to do that. Like, that's the goal, to be in that position. All this going into your corners and trying to pick this lane, you're gonna lose and not gonna be able to compete at that level doing that shit. It's just that simple. Charlemagne attempted to do that with Tommy Laurent. His group said, no, you can't do that. Trevor Noah attempted to do that, even though he gets away with it more because he's a talk show host and he does have to talk to politicians on both sides. He did that. The black audience killed him for doing that. That's just the moral of the story, bro. It's like, you can't pigeonhole yourself and have certain takes and present certain narratives. Because even what he did, Joe says, like, you know, the way he framed it, like he tag teamed the racial shit into it. You had Duke on, and he is rumors of him having paying for the riot. Like, all that information is out there to where you don't have to agree with it, but you didn't have to say those rumors and stuff. Like, you knew what you were doing to try to make this a racial issue, saying, instead of just saying, yo, I can't get those numbers because I can't interview people like that. Or you would take the moral high ground and say, well, it ain't about getting anybody. You the one who claim you don't want to interview people on your pod, certain rappers, but you still do because obviously it's going to help the platform. So your own little personal ego or whatever, not wanting to interview certain rappers or entertainers at all. This isn't an interview podcast, but then you did do certain interviews with the Pusha T joint. You know what I mean? You've had people come up on. Who did he have recently? He had somebody up there recently. But I'm just saying, oh yeah, he even, Andrew does the interview with the dude, Catch a Predator dude. Then he goes on Joe Budden pod. So it's like, you understand the game and how it's morphed in the podcast game. You do have to do interviews now. And this is the funny thing. Andrew Schultz was talking shit about Jordan Peterson. Like, he was making jokes saying a little whiny voice and his content is pointless. And I thought that was kind of funny how he did that. But then he started shutting up about him. And like 2 months later, Jordan Peterson's on his pod. So he realized quickly that, oh, I can't be talking shit. This dude is powerful. He's big. You know, he's controversial. Every video he's done with Joe Rogan has blossom and bloom. I can't be talking shit about this dude. And he was on his pod. Did a whole hour interview with him, one-on-one. And he'll probably be back again. But it seems like we limit our ability to have dialogues because we want to frame things and see things a certain way. And again, your audience, the Tim Pools, the Joe Rogans, now Andrew might be in that lane now because he's interviewing everybody and different things. He can have, his audience is okay with him doing Alex Jones, Jordan Peterson, and then MMA fighters. Like, the game has switched, dog. Like, and then for you to cry and act like a little bitch because you can't get those numbers and say it's not fair because he's white and he can, it's not fair because your audience that you created and you helped facilitate the way they are, that's your fault. It's not his fault. It's not their fault. It's not again, there's an element of race as far as who's going to be the biggest, obviously. Right? There's no black Joe Rogan. There probably won't ever be. But part of that is because the fan base that you curate ain't going to accept you doing that. They're going to leave. They're going to bounce. They're going to ban the ship if you have on people that they don't like or dialogues that they don't want to hear. That's an audience problem. That's a pigeonholing yourself problem. That's just my take on it, though. What are your thoughts? I just thought that was lame and corny that Joe would frame it that way. Like, I get the rumors and the innuendos and the thoughts about Alex Jones and all that stuff, but y'all can't racist to death every single white person that's controversial or got some clout. I just can't do that. And you do that, you lose out. Stop repeating the dumb shit that CNN and all that stuff tell y'all to do, and then get mad when people who are conservative or are libertarian and independent, like, nah, I ain't gonna watch this shit. Why would I watch this shit when you're biased and then you take these takes, but I can go watch other people like Joe Rogan's a liberal or Tim Pool's a liberal, yet they can have conservatives come on their show and talk and have meaningful debates and dialogues without it being too crazy. Can't do that in black podcast space. It's not a lot of people on a neutral playing field that can have discussion with everybody. And again, the only person we really got like that is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And he's got a lot of fuckery around him, though. So it's like he's not wanted to be dependent upon about that. But that's how you got to be to succeed in this whole podcast game now. You can't do what you do. You can't, I'm disgusted at this person for sitting next to that person, right? Ebro did that shit. Ebro tried, a lot of people did smack Charlamagne around for going on her platform, even though he was going on there to try to check her or whatever that means. But, or, well, why you got her on? Well, if you're business minded first, you know that having Tommy Loren on is way more financially beneficial to you and your network and your bosses. And right, and that's your job, isn't it? Ain't that what Stephen A said? Every day I wake up or thinking about how I can make my employer some more money so I can give me some more money, right? Ain't that what Stephen A says? As crazy as that sounds, as cringy as that sounds, he's correct though. So Breakfast Club, and it's funny too, like how the Breakfast Club, they all have a person or people that they don't like on the show. If you notice, Angela Yee was on the Breakfast Club the first time Umar came up there. She ain't even say nothing, which was good because she was quiet instead of asking them dumbass questions. But she ain't been up there since. It's like convenient that she's never there when he's there. Envy don't like Deezus and Meryl, or now he got Safari blocked or whatever. Like Charlamagne don't like Troy Ave. Like it's a bunch of people. Each one of them have that. They know if the person come up there is going to be controversial, it's going to give them ratings, it's going to help them stay on air, but they just simply don't come on the show and the other two people interview them. It is like that, but I don't know. That's just my take, though. What are your thoughts? Do you think that Joe's correct? That again, I don't think Andrew should have been in the black folks conversation when we're talking about equity and trying to do what we gotta do to get on. However, this rebuttal, this response from Joe, it sounds like Joe really losing it, yo. It just does. Like I don't know the numbers. Love T.I. said the numbers is down. He's not doing as good as he was when he had Roy and Ramal. Even though I think that the pod is, is it better? I think the pod before was more fun, but this one is a lot more serious to me because you got adult grown men. And then nobody's too cool to respond and talk to Ish, pun intended, Ish and Ice. I think Ice was like the biggest troll and the coolest dude on Twitter, but on the Joe Budden podcast, this dude is like a little puss. Like he is Captain Save him out of this world. But that's just my take though. What's yours? Oh yeah, now that I think about it, T.I. did go on and interview Alex Jones. So Did Joe Budden have any smoke for T.I. when he had him on there? I think that's weird to go at Andrew saying the argument, but T.I. did have on Alex Jones. Farrakhan did go on Alex Jones' show. Like, come on. Put that in some context. I gotta find out. Did he have any smoke for T.I. for doing a whole interview with Alex Jones? Does he have an issue with the fact that Farrakhan went on and did interviews with Alex Jones?